Welcome back to the 100th Monkey Radio Show with the archive part. We're coming back with Ralph, and we're going to take off where we left off, which he had us on the edge of the cliff. So get ready to jump off. Ralph, take it away.
Okay, I'm here. I'm here with my beautiful, wonderful best partner, best friend, and wife, Marsha Brown. She goes by Marsha Brown because she's got a business of her own. But she is Marsha Ring, and she's here with me as well. And she's the one that keeps me on my path. So we're back, and I will get you off the edge of the cliff.
So real quick before we jump off this cliff, how long have you and Marsha been together?
30 years. We've been friends for 30 years. Without going into a lot of background, she married my wife and I when we met when we were building the underground house here in Arizona, or there in Arizona, and we became best friends because she has been on a spiritual path of her own, and she's well engaged in higher consciousness. And so when my wife passed away, I gravitated back to my best friend, and then in the last 5 years we've been sharing a life together physically.
Fantastic.
Before that we'd get on the phone and so forth.
Fantastic. Well, we will definitely. Well, why don't we do it now? Hey, Marsha. So, what's it like living with this legend?
Oh, you know what? I've lived with it for such a long time. I was actually holding spiritual meetings in the 1980s, and one of Ralph's and his wife Ruth and I's mutual friend brought them to one of the meetings to tell his story. In the early 80s, people weren't, they didn't believe in any of this. They really poo-pooed him at that time. But my mom and dad happened to be at the meeting, and my mom said, "Oh, yes, I remember seeing an article in the newspaper about the flying saucer in Apple Valley." And that was the one that Ralph will now tell you about. But anyway, from the time that she said it only came out one time in the San Bernardino Sun. My folks lived at that time in Barstow, California, and that's about 30 to 40 miles away from Apple Valley. So she verified that to me right away. I never doubted that it wasn't true. And so being a partner with Ralph and going to the different lectures when he finally did come into this the view, I guess you might say. I think Ed has been about 5 or 6 years ago when he first was interviewed by Project Camelot. At that time, he was a little bit leery of coming out and even going there again. He just hadn't talked about it that much. But this has been his love ever since I've known him. The love of getting people off the ground and getting people to be who they really are and not have to pay high energy bills. And from the very time I first met Ralph, and at that time I knew very little about natural laws or anything like that, he said, "Just hang in, we'll take you to the meetings and we'll learn it." And so it's been a wonderful experience. It's very exciting, and right now with the things that are happening, and Ralph will talk to you about that in just a few minutes. But
sounds like you guys augment each other fantastically.
It's wonderful. It's so exciting that we feel like these craft are going to be off the ground within the next. Well, maybe they end by the end of this year. Mm-hmm. But more than that too, we just want people to be free of all of the energy bills and the things that tie us down. And as Ralph says in the box, he had quite a time pulling me out of the box before I could let go and just be, live on limited income. I just thought I had to have, enough money to pay for everything. And finally realizing that when you go into this consciousness, it's amazing how things come about. We don't have to work by the sweat of our brow to have a nice living, a good life.
Right.
So I knew that intellectually, but until I've actually experienced it, now I can talk about it.
Yeah, I like the saying. I like to say, how much work does a tree have to do to grow?
And Tom, I feel that way too, but I use the birds.
There you go.
The birds, and I say they don't have to work by the sweat of their brow, but they're all, they have food, and yeah, we put bird feed out because we want them to come so we can watch them, but
Right.
they don't eat it, and so that's the same concept. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ralph, let's nudge us off the cliff, shall we?
Okay. So I just wanted to mention that Marcia, at the time when I met her, she's right to the top of corporate. She was in charge of corporate, if you will. She was really on top of the corporate ladder, and at one point.
Oh wow.
Huh?
No, I'm just saying wow.
Oh yeah, and at one point she worked for Bendix deep space tracking system out in the middle of the desert, out in the middle of nowhere, and she was exposed to many phenomena, if you will, or sightings, if you will, that they told her don't exist or don't talk about them, etc., etc. And she was wondering, well, what's going on? Why can't we tell people what the truth of everything is? And eventually she got tired of not being able to be who and what she is. She's a magnificent person on counseling and the arts of understanding sacred geometry. So anyway, that being said, I just wanted to plug her there. She's I just said get out of the box now, and she listened.
Nice. Okay, so
On the craft that you want to get off the ground,
Yeah, really quick before we get into the craft, Marcia, how long was the transition period before from corporate to where you're at now? How long was that transition period? Because for a lot of us, we're trying to do that, get away from the whole corporate world.
I got out of the corporate world, but then I couldn't let go of the idea that I had to have money. So I did some really less paying jobs for a while. Ralph had to kind of pull me to let go of everything. And so I would say probably, 3 years?
Total.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when I got out of the high status corporate job and thought, no, I'm not going back to work. But I kept getting pulled back in because I seemed to be using my savings, and I thought, oh, I can't do this. The fear thing came. So I had to actually let all of that go and say it doesn't matter if I don't have savings or whatever. I didn't have to use all of my savings. I don't mean that, but I had to let the fear go of that. And when I finally did, actually it took us a year to get out of Phoenix after Ralph and I got together, and we were supposed to leave right away when we got together, but it took me about a year to actually let go of all of the physical kind of, I owned a home there, and physical things in the box kind of things. And of course I had children, they're all adult children, and they were not happy that I was walking away from everything. They thought I was kind of losing my whole sensibility.
Mom's gone crazy. Mom's gone crazy.
They must have not been happy with Ralph.
Well, they knew Ralph for a long time. When Ralph and I first met, I think I mentioned that my mom and dad were at my house when he first spoke at one of my meetings and told about the hovercraft and the spaceship. So he became very close with my mom and dad. He actually looks still to my mom as one of his great spiritual teachers. So he's been part of my family, even, and my children knew that, but they were not in close proximity with him for most of those years.
They thought I was cuckoo. And,
they probably still do, you guys. It doesn't matter because, we tell them the things that are so wonderful that are happening. I mean, we have so many things come. If we desire something,
we no longer have to work for it. We drop even the desire for it, but it's like the universe knows it before it happens and brings it to us.
Right.
Everything's starting to happen that way. We haven't wanted or needed for anything. In fact, it was almost at a point where we were asking the universe to slow down. It was giving it so much love and friendship. It was just coming every day. Here in Paradise, they have a system on feeding everybody up here in Paradise free every day at the churches. Free lunch and free dinners in some cases. And everything is a barter system up here, if you will. They use the old common sense, if you will, to bargain with and to barter with. And people are just in love with their life and themselves and each other. We're all really a very spiritual family that's started here.
Very nice. Very nice. There's a lot of that cropping up, at least from what I've been in, and I have to say that yes, I kind of gravitate towards that type of community, but doing what Ramon and I do, we are seeing a lot more of that popping up, that community consciousness growing. So I'm really optimistic about our future.
Well, you have, it seems, it feels
they have a great community.
Yeah, that you have such a service that you're doing.
Oh, my God.
To be bringing people like Ralph onto a network where other people can hear. And this is what's happening with Mark Hosa. He took over our website, and then he's connected us with different people that have interviewed us, and it's amazing how the people are coming together, and this is how the actual materialization of what's happening right now is because of the interviews like you, Tom, and Ramona, both of you guys are doing. This is
accelerating.
Yeah, this is such a good service, a beautiful service. Thank you.
That's our goal. That's part of our purpose. Is we are looking for that 100th monkey. We feel that there's a critical mass that will be reached in consciousness, and then it'll spread across all of humanity. And I feel that the key aspect of that critical mass is the unity consciousness, the understanding that we are all one and that we are all fundamentally and naturally connected in ways that most people just haven't even dreamt about yet. And I think that's the key. That's my personally, anyways.
For me, what I've noticed is that the most important part is the constant connection. For example, when I first watched one of your interviews several years back, I had no idea that I was going to be doing a radio show, and I wasn't even thinking about it. And it's just people like yourself who have the gall to come out and say your experiences without caring that the rest of society is going to poo-poo what you're saying. It really feeds back and forth, and that's what makes it easy for us to come out. Because honestly, if none of you guys would come out and say your experiences, we would have nobody to interview. So the way things feed back, I'm always amazed. For example, me and Tom used to always listen to Dr. Brooks, and he was the one who helped us put our show together. So it's just a constant loop between the speakers, the listeners, and the show, the radio show host. So I'm always amazed.
Who's Dr. Brooks? I'm not sure you.
Brooks Agnew.
Oh, Brooks,
of course.
It's my buddy. He swam with the dolphins together.
Yeah. We know Brooks fairly well. He's an awesome guy. Awesome guy. Absolutely love him. Yeah.
Well, I suppose you want to get off the cliff now.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we've been playing at the edge too long.
Okay. Well, at this point, I'll put a little different slant on things. There was a movie, one of the Indiana Jones movies. I think it was the last one, Crusades or something.
With the one with the aliens?
I'm not sure. I just saw it briefly one time. I was interrupted in the middle of it, but I did see a part in the movie that equates to what we're talking about at the edge of a cliff. He apparently there was this wide and deep crevasse, or actually an abyss, with a little bridge going across it, and somebody cut the bridge, but he had to get across the bridge or save the girl or whatever the mission was. He was standing there, and he had to rely on a way to effectively rescue, to complete his mission. And what he did, he used his mind instead of his thoughts, because his thoughts scared him to death. But he used his mind, which was telling him, just go for it, step off. And he stepped off, and of course he was able to walk across the.
That's the Last Crusade with the.
The Last Crusade.
With the cup.
Yeah, and it equates to what we're talking about with faith. About Marcia and I have given up all interest in manufacturing ways and means to keep our boat afloat. We no longer have to, because we're both on Social Security, but we're in a position where our creative minds are quite active, and our resources, that's back to the source, our resources are always there when we need them. And we learn to have complete and total trust in that. And I don't care what the situation is, as long as we stay out of the way and don't try to do it ourselves, it happens beautifully and abundantly in ways that we couldn't even imagine had we been in the way. So it's a case of faith, and that's Carr had a lot of faith. So did Tesla, that we could get these things going and get them back to the people. And so back to the craft, we. After General Motors, when we were leaving the hotel, the rep said, "Now, if you guys put them up there, we're going to shoot them down. You're not going to be able to do this. You're outlaws." That was their demeanor at the time. So Carr said, "Well, good day, and we'll see you." And we took off, and we didn't know about British Motor Car Company then. We do now, and later on I'll tell you about that. But we left, and Carr said, we're on a countdown now. It's only a matter of time till they find out where we are, what we're doing, and they're going to be throwing in a lot of monkey wrenches to stop the progress. So let's get back to work and get the 45-foot model up and get it so that we can fly over Los Angeles or Boston or wherever we are led to send signals that, hey, we're alive and well, we're up here, look, ask questions, and we could go down as close as a few inches to the ground and back up again. So we thought we would really put on some demonstrations that would pique people's imaginations and cause them to ask a lot of questions and not being turned away by the fears and doubts that are usually answered.
Right.
So, so we went back and we started putting the 45-footer. We upgraded our work on it, got it ready to go, and it wasn't any big elaborate thing with custom upholstery or anything in it. It was just the accumulator was in the center, and up above was the cabin where we rendezvoused. I was just a lab tech, and I didn't expect to go. I thought the engineers would be going, but Carr purposely chose me. He said, "I want you to go because you understand me more than any of these other guys." And I said, "Well, that's great. I'd love to do it." So myself and two other engineers we got on board. We had these little jumpsuits we put on. We got on board, and we sat around in the cabin. And in the center of the cabin was a faceted crystal, just a big, giant, probably like 2 or 3 feet in diameter. I'm not sure the size now. But Carr briefed us before we went on board. He says, "I want you to clear your brains. Your brain no longer, put it to rest, give it a nice dream or something, and just keep it out of the way. If it tries to bug you, put it to sleep, because this is going to depend on your total commitment and total focus and concentration on the crystal." So we said, okay, big deal. So we got on board, and we sat around this crystal, and they fired up, and I suppose it was some kind of a laser. It had to be a laser, I suppose, from underneath, and illuminated this crystal into multi-dimensional colors of the rainbow. I mean, there was perhaps hundreds of thousands, if not a million different colors around this crystal. It was just indescribably beautiful. And then it started pulsing, it started vibrating, and it finally got to the color of a if you've ever been in the South Pacific, the oceans are aquamarine color. It's really a beautiful color. It got to that color of aquamarine, and the whole inside of the craft, it was beautiful. And I had the same sensation there as I had when I put my hand through the model. It was just I can't even describe the feeling. It was just wonderful and magnificent. And I was expecting, to get ready for a grand experience. And then we heard Carr's voice. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't even have ham radios. I don't know how we heard him, but he was communicating with us, and he said, "Okay, that's the experiment. Come on down for debriefing." And I thought, well, God, man, we haven't even gone anywhere. I concurred with the other guys. No, we haven't. Let's go find out what happened. So we went down, and Carr looked at us, and he reminded us about the brain versus the mind, and intuition and feelings and resonance and everything else. And he said, well, how was the trip or whatever, or something like that. And he said, well, it didn't happen, did it? And he said, well, what makes you think so? I said, well, we didn't go anywhere. We didn't do anything. We were sitting in the chair and nothing happened. And he said, empty your pockets. So we emptied our pockets out, and it was all filled with rocks and stones and sticks and grass, and put them on his desk. He said, I thought you said you didn't go anywhere. We didn't. He said, well, then how did that get there? We knew because we showered up and put these jumpsuits on before we got on board. We didn't have anything in our pockets. He said, well, how did they get there? And we honestly, we don't know. He says, well, and he explained teleportation to us. He said, you went beyond what's terminally referred to as time and space. That's an illusion created as needed for measurement. mathematics, you could create a beginning and an end, or it's like a duality in a third dimension reality. They're up and down, left and right, good and bad, but they are just a part of a very, very small part of reality. And you went to a deeper sense of reality, which is a sense of knowingness, and your mind went outside of these things called time and space. We had the engineers go down the day before and measure the area that you were going to, equated to about 10 miles down range, and they used their instruments to satisfy themselves that that area equated to the light and color range, resonated the light and color range of the marine. So what we did was resonate at that resonant frequency of aquamarine, and you went there, and someday your brain might accept the fact that you went there, but sometimes it may not appear for maybe years, or months at least. And it took me a couple of years before now I have almost total recall of the trip. And I remember going downrange. I remember getting out on the magnetic ramp and going down and picking the stuff up and putting it in our pocket and stuff. I remember that now, but I didn't. It was totally not in my concept at the time. I couldn't remember any of it. He said, that's because the brain can't and will not want to accept anything out of its jurisdiction or its reality.
Right.
So, anyway, that being said, we found out later, this was years later, when I think it was on Project Camelot, I mentioned this thing, and a couple of police officers were on patrol that night, and that they just happened to be witness to the craft coming down. They saw us come down. They saw us, three of us, get out, pick up sticks and stones, and they wrote in on our email and said, "Yeah, we think we saw you guys. We thought it was another one of those flying saucers around there." And it only lasted a few seconds at the base, but it lasted for us, if you want to put it into time and space, about 15 minutes. I mean, that's what I'd equate it to. So. That was our trip. That was our first trip in teleportation, and then once you have been in an area like that, which is extraordinary compared to third dimensional realities, it sticks with you. You want to stay there. You want to go there more. You want to do more of it. So from that time on, Marsh and I, when we got together, we have been accepting the fact that we manifest our own realities in microseconds or nanoseconds.
Mm-hmm.
We can change it. We have the ability to manifest anything we want.
Right. So was Carr able to retain his consciousness, his conscious awareness through the whole experience? Obviously, he was able to keep his conscious. What's the word I'm looking for? The
conscious awareness.
The awareness, the linear time awareness through the whole process.
Well, it was documented. They had an 8mm camera running, so the craft that they were looking at disappeared for just seconds, I think, and then it came back, and that was all documented. And but Carr, I'd have to equate him in terms nowadays that are almost acceptable as being from another system. I mean,
okay, I think I got it. Now, Carr was not in the craft then.
No.
Okay, I got you.
He was at the base. He was not in the craft at all. It was just the three of us.
Right.
Well, since you said that, do you think now that Carl was human, Earth human, or fully Earth human, or maybe he was being helped by somebody out there?
Well, our consciousness has changed quite a bit, and we've grown quite a bit in learning more about who and what we are. And we realize that everyone has this ability to be multidimensional, which would equate to being from another planet, from another system, from another dimension, or anything. But he realized it to the point where he didn't even talk about it. He was just being that kind of a being, and we could pick up more from what he didn't say than what he said. It was just, I guess you could call it telepathy. I don't know, but it was like we knew what he was feeling and thinking at all times. And I'd have to equate him to being, a magnificent being from wherever he came,
Right.
or anywhere else. And he picked a lot of that up from Tesla. And I just recently found out that there is now a possibility that Tesla, according to some people, may have come from another system, and I think it was referring to Venus or something. From Venus or something, Tesla.
Hmm.
So it's not out of the range now, and I think it's coming in quite quickly where we're going to be communicating with multidimensional beings every day on many, many levels. And I think we have been and haven't realized it. Marcia and I may be talking to two of you guys right now.
I'll tell you what, more and more people are becoming aware of the multidimensionality of reality of life, and understanding that we do exist in multiple places at the same. We exist everywhere at all times, or no time, whatever you want to call it. And there's more and more people that are becoming conscious of this in this dimension, in this third dimension. And people are popping up left and right all over the place who are talking about these communications that they're having, about these experiences that they're having, about these the downloads that they're getting, or the channeling that they're doing, or even we've got even to the extent of having the physical contact people are having. So I mean, it's really becoming more accepted, I guess, in the consciousness, and in doing so, in becoming more accepted, is becoming more prevalent in our society.
More commonplace.
Yeah, it's becoming more commonplace because it's becoming part of our consciousness, of our group consciousness.
Collective consciousness.
Right.
I believe that it's time for all of us to remember who we really are, who in our reality we are, that one person, that oneness that we are, and how many things. I mean, we're unlimited spiritual beings. We can do whatever mind can conceive, man can achieve. And I really truly believe this. And today, now, is the time for all of us to wake up and remember who we truly are.
Yeah. So, Ramon, I said something one night on a show, or we were talking or something, and Ramon made me put it on the website as a Tom Kappenman quote. It's wherever your imagination takes you, the technology will be there.
Yeah, that's very nice. I like that.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, it's and I know some of the listeners are going to be wondering, well, okay, that's all well and good for you and so forth, but how can I do it? I mean, that's usually the questions that we get. We get hundreds of emails like that. And so we've kind of, Marcia and I've kind of put some ideas together that might give them a way to break into the, let's call it the new paradigm compared to the old paradigm, if you will. And that is, one of the techniques is word sculpturing, to be very, very careful on the words that you use, and be careful not to take them out of the past and put them into the future. Meaning, if you've had an experience Let's use a traffic cop. You got stopped by a traffic cop and you tried to talk your way out of a ticket and it didn't work. Okay, the next time that happens, you immediately go to your resources, your own personal resources, and remember, well, that didn't work, but I'll try another way. And you'll try the same feelings again, and it won't work. And it'll keep not working. It'll keep repeating itself because you're taking a past experience and trying to put it into a future event. And so what happens is if you would just stand still and let the cop come up, and he'll probably say, oh, I just wanted to say hello and goodbye, because you would create that by the lack of fear, the wholesomeness of being together with yourself, just being together with yourself, and allow the forces, your electromagnetic field, if you will, around you, create the environment around the traffic cop to just come up and say hi instead of anything else. And you're changing the entire scope of it by your eliminating fear to a point. Well, you actually make friends with fear. You don't eliminate anything, because if you do, it'll come back and bite you. But I used to walk on very tricky ground, glacier type of ground, and very slippery and stuff. And I used fear as my friend, because if I didn't, I would have been at the bottom of a 1,000-foot drop. So I made friends with fear, but I am in control, and I've told fear I am in control because I say so.
So what did Einstein say? He said you cannot fix a problem with the same consciousness that created it.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful.
So, yeah.
That's my case.
Yeah.
So if you just stand out of the way, and let the future guide you, it will. That's the same thing that got Indiana Jones across that precipice. It's just plain have enough guts to do it, to get out of the proverbial box, to get out of the right and wrong, up and down, left and right, and go to a sense of knowingness. It's the same as knowing, if somebody gives you a belief, I believe in this religion or this science, and somebody will come along within a short period of time and give you the opposite view, and you'll find out you'll be disbelieving it. And that's the squirrel cage. It keeps going around and around or revolving instead of evolving. And evolving comes from knowing. And the knowing is the simple fact that you know yourself well enough to know when you're hungry, or when you're tired, when you're sleepy, when you have to use the restroom. Those are knowings that knowing can convince you otherwise of. They can't be taken away from you because it's a knowingness. And if one sets their scopes on, I am a magnificent being, I always have been, I always will be, and I'm here to make a better world, they will do it. Because all they have to do is change their perception, their attitude, the alignment with natural law, which is sacred geometry again, getting all their ducks in a row, and change their concept. They will change the collective consciousness. Each one of us changing our perception from the old ways to the new and different ways, which is love instead of fear. It's changing overnight. It's as we speak, and this program that you guys are putting on and talking with us is, by now there's many changes taking place. I think there's a scale somewhere, and we're moving now in 18 days 20 times faster than we used to move.
Right. We're in the sixth day or sixth night, Ramon.
I believe
of the ninth wave.
We're in the 6th day, but we're moving into the 6th night.
Yeah.
I think October we move into 6th night.
No, it's we're moving to 6th night on September 26th or 22nd or something like that. Anyways, somewhere in there. Yeah, this is wow. What a time to be here. I'll tell you what.
It's wonderful. It's get up and ride the crest of the wave, because it's going to be a beautiful journey. Because you can't there's nothing that can harm you unless you let it. That's what people have to realize. They think somebody can, well, they can get to them if they let them. That's what we've done, given our power away, and now we have to take it back and put it in perspective and say, shoot your best shot. You can't kill my spirit. My spirit is everywhere. It's even in you.
Yeah.
So they realize then that they'll have to kill themselves, and they don't want to do that. So, it's playing with the realities. But another thing about word sculpturing is you can take words that you've used in the old paradigm and dissect them and say, what have I been saying? One of the words that Marcia and I really delight ourselves with is the word realized. We use that word a lot, and I realize this and I realize that, but then one time we slowed down and looked at that word and connected it to our intuition, and then we understood a little bit about the pineal gland and the pituitary gland and how it equates to the third eye, or in India and Buddhism and a lot of belief systems. The third eye is the one that can see forever. It goes on. It can see reality beyond the illusion. So you take that word and say, I realize, and instantly when you look at something, it's no longer just a glass that came out of a cupboard. It's a magnificent thing that you could sit there all day and study the structure and see the texture, and you can really get into things that it's unlimited. That's one word. Another word is
because you look at it with your real eyes.
Yeah, with your real
There
eyes.
you go. Yep.
Because these little cameras we've got are only operating on 24.5 cycles, hertz, and they don't see very much. So that, and even our craft, when we operated our craft, they became invisible to the human eye. They're still there, but they became invisible because the eye, the optic nerve, the rods and the cones just don't vibrate that high. You can get them there, and by people raising their consciousness, but they usually stay in the third dimensional conception of light and color and frequencies and resonance. So but by raising consciousness, people are going to be beginning to see, I'm getting tired, are things that they haven't seen before because they haven't looked at it that way before. And you'll find eventually, like Marcia and I, that everything without exception is good. There is nothing but good. Everything we look at is good. Everything we look at is true, or everything we look at is love. And then we equate that for the benefit of people that don't understand what we're talking about into frames of reference. If you have frames of reference, the now that you have in this moment is perfect. In the next moment it may not be. In the next moment it may be perfect again. But each now has its own lifespan, and it may be only nanoseconds. But if you say, I had a perfect experience in that moment, you did, because you said so. And your subconscious has to accept it because you said so. And everything you tell it, you say I can't, it says okay, you can't. And it's really simple. These simple little things are just to get people to start trying them out, because they can change their consciousness overnight, and they can start communicating with trees and rocks and oh my gosh, animals. It's beautiful to be able to communicate with animals. You can I had experience with a horse the other day, and it was just beautiful. I won't go into it, but it's looking at it with your real eyes, with your heart and your mind instead of your eyes.
One thing I've noticed about the way things work is that once I have personally resolved one of the blocks, I'll call them blocks for lack of a better word, challenges, or once I've learned one of my lessons, or however you want to term it, the situation no longer comes into my life. You know, say like you used the policeman analogy earlier. Once somebody understands that fear or the lesson that they are meant to learn through that type of situation, and once they get it and they know that aspect of their life, that never happens anymore. It just disappears. The path is made clear for you.
And that knocks them up another level of consciousness, and they begin to, once they start forming those habits instead of the old habits, they'll find that life becomes quite simple, quite easy, and that the place they were always looking for is right here within themselves and their environment around them. We've never left heaven; it's always been here. We've left our consciousness of heaven, and now Marcia and I, we used to pursue heaven and go to different places and find, yes, this is heaven, until we realized everywhere we were going was heaven. So heaven's inside; it's not outside. But the outside world forms to what the inside world is creating. So everywhere we go, it's heaven, and we're meeting heavenly beings. We're meeting spiritual beings on unfathomable depths of consciousness, and it all begins with a person just willing to change their attitude, their consciousness, their awareness, and you take another word like depressed. You take that word and you say, oh well, we don't want to go there. That's a depression and depression, and they don't want to bother with somebody that's depressed. You take that word and split it in half, and you say, no, the guy's in a deep rest. He's had it with the outside world. He's gone into deep rest. He'll come out, stand good and ready. You play with these words, and you find, oh wow, I've got another way of saying it, another way of looking at it. And
I like those. Have you written these down in a list anywhere?
No, I haven't.
Oh, geez, this would be. There you go, Marcia. There's a job for you. I want you to put all these words down and break them down for people and post them on the site.
Thank you, Tom. Another thing that I heard you say, when you know something, that's another thing that that Ralph and I have talked about. If you think you know something, it can be you can be talked out of it, or somebody can sway your opinion. But if you know something, if you totally know it, then that's another word that...
Instead of believing it, we know it.
Right.
Because once you know something, you know it. Nobody can take that away from you.
Ramona, have you heard me say something real similar to that quite a few times?
Just a few times.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of my big things, is the difference between belief, faith, and knowing. It is huge. It's a huge difference.
And there's one more tool that the audience can put in their little spiritual evolving toolbox if they care to, and that is when they're approached by a lesson, and that's all things are, is lessons, and we turn them all into angels. No matter who approaches us, they're angels. So it makes it easier to deal with. But when they're approached with a certain lesson, and the lesson happens to be don't give me your power, and the lesson comes across like somebody trying to get you convinced that what you're looking at, that they're showing you, is real. This is it. This color is green. This is absolutely green. And I'm just using a metaphor, that and usually in the normal case of the old paradigm, we say, oh yeah, I guess it is green, isn't it? And we commit. Well, then we've given a little of our power away. We can't realize that at the time sometimes. But the way to avoid that, and it's actually a win-win situation, is when you're asked to commit, that color is green, isn't it? To say, so it seems. And that's it. So it seems is not a commitment. It seems to be. But you're not saying it is or it isn't.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I will use that. I like that.
Good.
So,
So
what
now
are the?
we're doing now, right?
Yeah,
Well, maybe, I don't know. I'm sorry.
I was
So
gonna say
it's-
what are the chances that me and Mark can jump on one of these crafts and get over to you guys' houses and then be back here for dinner?
Well, I'll tell you, it's no further away than you can imagine right now. It's very, very close. And the veil of consciousness is raising quite rapidly. It's accelerating at a very tremendous speed. And to go on with our story, because I know you want to know what we're doing now, if you don't mind, I'll enlighten you a little bit on that level. I'm a knight in the Knights Templar. So is Marcia. She's a Dom. She's been the Grand Chaplain in the Knights Templar, and I've been a knight. But it's a structured corporate deal, and I've always wanted to pull away from the structure because I wanted them to honor and respect the Christ consciousness, which it was originally intended to do. So Marcia and I have abandoned the structure and corporate level and gone. We're now known as road knights, and there is a lot of us now that have become road knights and are honoring the true sense of knighthood. And on one of these journeys, we had a meeting down near Santa Barbara, and we had quite a meeting with a lot of knights from all over the world. And what is the point I'm trying to get at here? I forget my point. Consciousness. Okay.
Well, one of the things that Ralph told me, I was not with him when he went to this night's meeting, but they were actually told how many miles we went down. And they were told, not exactly given a pathway, a map of where how to come and congregate with the rest of the group. They had to use their intuition.
Oh yeah.
And that's one thing that I think is very...
Thank you. That'll get me back. I think it'll get me back to where I was going. So and when the knights, or the Christ consciousness, that's what that simply means. Get back to who and what we are. We're all brothers and sisters on a wonderful journey, and we forgot it. And we got to get back to it because we're destroying ourselves if we continue, the way we've been going. But anyway, the way we communicate is we just the sense of knowing comes really into play. We just know, oh, they're gathering again, and then you'll get this strong impression. Okay, where? Well, Santa Barbara. Okay, and that you're supposed to, either want to go or not go. It's up to you. But I, in this case, wanted to go. And I was to rendezvous with some other knights at the train station in Santa Barbara. So I got on the train, on the Amtrak, and I got down to Santa Barbara, and I got off the train, nobody's there. And you talk about testing your lessons. Here I am stranded, and cell phones apparently don't work where we're having the meeting. It's 100 miles north of Santa Barbara, out in the middle of the wilderness. So I couldn't. I tried to use the cell phone to get a hold of any of the contacts, and I couldn't get a hold of anybody. And so the brain wanted to panic, like, well, here you are. What are you going to do now? Just that kind of thing. But I had the togetherness of just saying, no, don't worry. Worry not. That's another story, but don't worry about anything because it's going to happen. So I just sat on the bench, and pretty soon this knight woman, she's a female knight, came up and said, I'm here to take you. Let's go. And we meet the road. Let's go. So we got on the road, and then we were supposed to meet somebody coming in a pickup, and we're supposed to meet in a certain intersection. Roughly, nothing was, no plans, no maps, no nothing. We're doing this all on our intuition. So we said, well, we've got a meeting. The meeting's going to be at 6 o'clock for dinner, and then we're going to have this big round table meeting and then a sweat lodge. So we we started out, and we knew the general area, and we felt just keep driving until we get a feeling that we should slow down. And long story short, we slowed down and stopped, and here comes this pickup and pulled up right behind us and said, "Are you guys?" And we said, "Yeah, let's go." And so, because we were running late, it was already getting dark by then. And then we had to find our way. We had to keep going by our intuition and find these turnoffs. In the middle of the woods, we turned off on this dirt road and went way back for about, I think it was almost 10 miles into the middle of nowhere. And there was all kinds of nice paths we could have taken, like paved roads. But we kept feeling, and we had a consensus, all three of us. We were talking to the guy in the pickup on our cell phone. We had a consensus that we should stay with our intuition. And we all felt, stay on this dirt road, stay on this dirt road. And we got there 10 o'clock at night thinking, oh man, everybody's in bed now, this is all over. And we pulled up to the lodge, and they said, "Come on, dinner's ready. We were expecting you." And so anyway, the story is that we got there totally on intuition. We had no idea, no plans, no map, or nothing. And that's, a real test to your intuition, to follow it or step off the cliff or not.
Yep.
And I still don't know the point I was getting at.
You made your point. That's a good story. That's a good example of how, if you actually will just create a space for universe to put you where you're supposed to be, it does it.
Yeah, but also you started off with what you guys were doing now. And you were saying this story to tie into that.
Okay, well, when we got down there, the nights now, there is a certain amount of energy that has been taken from humanity, from the people. That is now, it's time to be given back because it was stolen, in a sense. I'm using a metaphor again.
Right.
These treasures, and it's energy. It's not all in money. It's not all in gold bullion or anything, but a lot of it's in energy. But it's now ready to slowly start and stay behind the scenes so that nobody knows the difference. But all this energy, this good love energy, is going to be coming back out to the people to make it easier on their map quest to get where they want to go in life. So we thought that was great, but I got it. BMW. Let me forget. So one of the guys I met there, I think I'm going to mention his name because he's on one of our websites. Lydia, I will, because it's a commitment, and he might get mad at me. But his name is Peter Fault. And I'm only going to say it once. If you caught it, good. But then, and he's the head designer for BMW Motor Car Company. And he knew of what we did with General Motors and said that now is now it's time. And spaceships have to come back. They've got to come back into our reality, and very, very fast now, very soon. So he sat me down and we talked and we went over things, and he said, when you guys are ready, when you get your prototypes and everything ready, he says, and it's like we haven't done this before because we did it in Prague years ago in the 40s. We built spaceships. And the Germans came in and took over the situation or slowed it down or stopped it, I don't know. But he said, but we're ready for you now. We know, that when you guys are ready, we're not going to turn you down like General Motors. We will be your manufacturer. So we're anxiously putting prototypes together right now as we speak. In Australia, we've got a brilliant person. His name is Ben. Well, he's on our Skype if you ever care to communicate with him. His name is He's a brilliant being, is all I can say, because he took what Carr put into Dimensions of Mystery, which is the book that Carr wrote, these describing and explaining the simplicity of levitation, when they wouldn't let him use that at the patent office, he had to redesign things, and so he wrote this book explaining it. And Carr told us, he said, when this book is deciphered, when it's uncoded, the system will be changing back into where it's always meant to be, and they will understand levitation because it's so simple. And his book just consisted of poems and prose and the explanations of God and nature and flowers and trees, but has decoded the book. Has gone through, and we do have that. It will be available to a closed group, but it will be available on the website to people pretty soon. And it all the equations of, like, it would say something like a hummingbird at mid-noon, when the sun is just right off a green flower that hovers near the fountain, will be beautiful, or something simple like that.
Right.
And what has done, he says, well, I understand this. This is a time equation. He's into mathematics and sacred geometry really, really deep. He says this equates to this, and the light off the bird equates to this, and he says, that equation solved. I understand that. And he's gone through the entire book and has now decoded, I think, almost all of it.
This is the time for people to come back and remember these things, and they have all the coded or in between the lines messages that were left in the past for those of us here now who have the eyes to see it and are here to do it. I strongly believe that there are. Well, this is something I know. People are incarnated now on this planet to bring things like this back.
Yeah. Yes, we feel that too. Yes. And I feel probably one of those, because he is. I want you to talk to him someday. If you ever get on Skype, he's a delightful being to talk to. He's got a brogue. He's an Australian. Got a beautiful brogue, but he's easy to understand once you listen to him for a few minutes. But this guy has a depth that just is very simple and easygoing. But it is very, very beautiful, because it is explaining nature in the raw of how natural things are and how simple things are.
Right.
If you ever get a chance.
Right.
Well, yeah, we'll get his contacts, and
so
we can book him right away.
From that, because I know you want to hear this, they've now gone back and built another resonating accumulator. They just got it done just a couple of weeks ago, and the essence of the accumulator, it doesn't seem to be anything but a hollow two ice cream cones put together, double tetrahedron, because it's hollow inside. There's nothing inside, but it's the geometric configuration and how it's placed in reference to space, into lines of space, or energy fields, electromagnetic fields, and magnetic fields in space. And it acts like a little monkey grabbing onto some grapes. It just grabs onto energy, and they have now they just finished putting that together, and now we got a picture of it just the other day of a small model that they put together of a 25-inch craft, which are going to they're doing this to study the geometric configuration to make sure that they got everything in place, and then they're going to a T6 aluminum craft and put the accumulator on board and take it from there, see where they go. But they're on course. Now they're doing that in Australia. We've got where we live here in Paradise. Down below us is Chico, California, and we have access to all the shops down there. the machine shops and the plastic mold shops and tool and die, etc., that has been gifted to us by a person that wants to build spaceships. So he says, come on board, I've got the keys. They've honored him. He was there for 18 years in charge of all these shops. Said, come on board, and I can even have students help us design and build these things so that we can start working on the ideas of spaceship right here in Chico, California.
Nice.
And it's another one that I should mention, and he's down in, where is it? Santa Rosa? I think Santa Rosa. Yeah. I can't say his name.
He's in Sacramento.
He's in Sacramento. And another one that's working on the same thing. So, and there's several more of us. We call them pods. And when I was in Hawaii, that's where it all started for me. I started with the Resonance project over in Hawaii. And that's where Nissan Harrison, he's still with them, I believe. But we branched off from that and went into our own system. But we are in a holding pattern in Hawaii now. We have some magnetic motors that are been waiting, busting at the gates to get out to people to show them that magnetism works and you can run your house on magnetism. But we have to honor and respect, not necessarily obey, but honor and respect the conscious laws that exist. We don't want to force it. We don't want to replace anything that they're already in place with. We just want to offer a better way of running your house.
Well, I will offer up my house as a test subject.
Okay. All right,
Same here.
Well, we'll keep it in mind, and if we get a craft going, we intend this is our intention. By the end of the year, we'll have a maybe a small one, a 45-footer up and about. But that depends on the collective consciousness. If they will accept this reality to come into play, and because there's a lot of fear on the horizon now for people, they are more apt to want to accept a new and different idea more than ever before.
Yeah.
So I think, but we're shooting for by the end of the year, and if not, maybe early in the next year. But
You're more than welcome to come and land over here. Just let me know. There's a big parking lot across the street from me, and I'll make you dinner.
Oh, good.
Well, it'll be your breakfast by the time you leave. So by the time you get here, it'll be dinner.
But the thing I think your audience wants to know is how they fly it, and it goes back to consciousness. All you have to do is intend to go to Japan for breakfast, and the ship knows that. It already knows it before you do. And the ship will take you there, and it will comfortably get you in the exact coordinates necessary so that we could rendezvous. This is the kind of thing that it does. It's run by consciousness, and a lot of people can't get away from steering wheels or
buttons.
Right. Yeah. So this sounds exactly like I have been blessed enough to have been able to learn how to astral project or do out of body travel.
Uh-huh.
And it's the same principle. I just think of where to go, and boom, there I am.
Yeah, to simplify things, at least in our vernacular now, we equate everything as one, and the one that we use now is teleportation. But that's exactly what out of body and astral projection is. It's teleportation.
Right.
And so that we're already, all of us are teleporting. We think we get in a car and go down to Costco to buy groceries because we want to feel that experience of driving, blah, 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 but we don't really have to. We can teleport there, like I did in Hawaii. I don't know did you ever catch the thing on Hawaii, how I teleported back and forth?
No, I did not.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll give you that, and that'll explain a little bit about how simple it is. Marcia and I have been communicating for years on the telephone. I lived in Las Vegas. She lived in Phoenix. And I was with the Residence Project there, and I was the offshoot of it. We started our own department, and we were. The whole idea is to get back to free energy, free and abundant energy for everybody. And the spaceship, of course, is my bag. That's what I really wanted to do. So we decided to formulate this group, and it was called the Elders of the Round Table. I was the eldest. Elizabeth Rauscher, who is a well-known nuclear physicist, among other things. She's got degrees all over the place. She was 1 year under me, and then we had the engineer that I told you about, the magnetic motors, and we had a gold medalist, Oliver, who won the gold medal in kayaking, I believe it was, and he was our coordinator to keep us on time, to keep us on scope and schedule. And then we had another guy by the name of Lazar, who was a brilliant engineer that could piece pieces of etheric technology together and make them work. So anyway, we had these meetings back and forth, and I had to get on email and get my ticket lined up on what flight, where, when, and how, and what, and get baggage. And I'd always seem to forget something, and I didn't want to forget it the next time. And then customs just absolutely was an insult to me. I couldn't believe the drastic approaches that customs took on people. But anyway, I got sick and tired of it, bottom line. And I told Marcia on the phone, I said, I just don't think I'm going to go next time. I know I need to, maybe we can teleconference it, but I just don't feel like going. There's too much of the hassle. You know, I have to get a cab to the airport or get somebody to take me and all that. So we kind of let it go at that. And then the next thing I remember, I was sitting around the round table. We were all talking and discussing things, and the guy next to me said, "How was your flight?" And for an instant, I had to, scope into myself, and I checked my memory banks. There was no flight. I didn't have a flight. But I instantly created a flight, just to pacify the situation, because we were involved in a kind of a heavy conversation on other levels. So I said, "Oh yeah," and then I built this flight 17, and I remember the stewardess name or something and what we had on board, and it was just a normal conversation. And then I found myself digging into my pocket, and I pulled a ticket out that had the flight on there. And this whole thing was created. It wasn't imagined, and I was actually there, and it's documented. The guys know that I was there, but they think I took a plane, and my brain think I took a plane, but I really didn't. I just teleported.
Nice.
So that was a beautiful experience for me, and then Marcia and I, since then, have been doing this not on an everyday basis, but every once in a while we would do things like the lychee. We'd go into supermarkets and find something that really wasn't there, and then get a receipt at home and find that it was on the receipt when we were told it wasn't. They never carried that. So it's changing the entire scene, not just your own personal thing, but you're into the collective consciousness of change, and you could change everything to fit the way it feels good.
I experienced something like that once. It was a friend of mine was telling me a story how he was drinking Gatorade, and his friends actually Suntuk from ESETI was telling me the story how he was drinking Gatorade, and they were telling him, "Oh, Gatorade's so bad," and he goes, "You know what's worse than Gatorade is you condemning me for drinking it." And when he's telling the story, I saw the Gatorade in his hand. After he finished telling the story, I went to look at the Gatorade. I was like, "Where's the Gatorade bottle?" He's like, "What are you talking about? I never had Gatorade." I said, "Yeah, you showed it when you were telling the story. He goes, no, I never had it.
Huh.
And I asked one more person, and he said, no, he didn't have it.
That's
But I saw it.
Yeah, that's sensing, using your real senses, beyond the three-dimensional.
Well, here's one for you. When I first started waking up back in the late 80s, something had prompted me to want to read the Egyptian Book of the Dead. And I was living in Palm Springs at the time, and during that period, there weren't a lot of metaphysical shops around the area. And so I went to the only place I really knew of in town, which was a bookstore that had, I can't remember. I think it was a Walden book. Anyways, actually the receipt's stapled to the book if I could find it. Anyways, I walked in there and started looking around, and they just did the only thing close to metaphysical. They had one little shelf that had books on crystals and crystal healing and that sort of thing, and the shelf happened to be right next to the door going into the back of the store. Lady, just as I was about ready to leave, this lady walks out of the back. "Can I help you, sir?" And I said, "Well, I was looking for the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and you guys don't seem to have it." She said, "Oh, no, we wouldn't carry anything like that." Mm-hmm. And I said, "Okay, well, thank you." And then she stopped me. She said, oh, hang on a second. And she ran in the back room, and she came walking out with a book. Oh. And she said, "This was delivered here this morning, UPS, by mistake. We were just getting ready to send it back."
Oh, my God.
I said, "Oh, well, thank you very much." Bought it, and off I went.
That's beautiful. That's natural.
How it does.
That's
what happens.
All of that.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
You should tell him the one with the tarot card.
Oh, well. Okay, this is in the same time frame. Actually, it's about a year before this. I had just a friend, a girl that I'd met, had exposed me to the tarot and had loaned me a deck. And I decided, yes, I want to learn how to read tarot, but this deck is not right. I want my own deck of cards. So she said, "Oh, no problem. We'll go down to the Golden Unicorn," which was a metaphysical shop in Fontana, California at the time. I was living in San Bernardino then. And so we go down to this place, and we get there about 5 minutes to 5, and the place was closing at 5. And I walk in and walk straight up to the counter, and I drawn to this deck, and it was perfect. I was like, "This is it." I didn't have to look at any others. This is the one. I put it down on the counter right next to this beautiful teak box that the cards fit in perfectly. And I was like, wow, that's the box too. And so I bought the two things, and while I'm doing this, they lock the doors and put the close sign out. And this place was just packed full of really neat stuff, and I wanted to browse around, but they were closing and being polite, et cetera, et cetera. I wasn't going to hold these people there. And so we left, and I told Connie, "Let's come back here tomorrow. I really want to check this place out." So I go over to her house the next morning. I get there about noon, and we take off to go down. And as we pull in the parking lot, my jaw dropped. I looked at the building, and sure enough, it still had the Golden Unicorn sign up on top of the building, but the windows were all boarded up. I walked up to the front door to peer through the door, and the shelves were all still there, but they were all completely empty. And this is in what, 16 hours, 18 hours from the time it was a fully stocked store. And they could not have packed everything up and moved it out overnight. So that was one of the real first impactful events that I could not explain, and I just had to accept that, yes, there are other forces at work here.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's what we want everybody to start experiencing. From God, it's just so beautiful when they happen, and they're quite natural. They're wake-up calls of their own, and they inspire us to, keep on trucking or keep on going to higher and deeper dimensions.
Absolutely. Well, here's one I just got today. I'm taking off for Chicago for work. I'm going over there for a couple days to do some work on a vehicle that we built. I build ambulances, by the way.
Oh,
And so I got my flight information and everything, and my return flight comes back on Saturday. It leaves at, it's flight number 3033 that leaves at 3:55 and arrives at 5:55. So I got 3s and 5s, and so I was like, okay, yeah. I just find the numbers are something else that I've noticed pop up, especially when you're really on the path, when you're really on going the right direction with your whole growth process. Those numbers pop up. People are seeing the all the multiples, and the 1111 is something that a lot of people are seeing.
That happened to me with 9/11 on 9/11.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, it was still 9/10 for you guys, but I was doing Japanese homework, and next to the homework, I have to always write the time in Japanese, and then I write the time and I go, holy, and I was like, wow, 9/11 on 9/11.
It's interesting, yeah.
It's like there's little messengers all over the place, like orbs coming in and guiding us and giving us a little nudge in the right direction all the time. It's beautiful. It's really. Marcia finds feathers when she knows she's on the right track. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Marcia.
The feathers have been a real sign for me to know that I'm on the right path, or going the right way, or confirmation of whatever's happening.
Yeah. Go ahead, Raymond.
No, I found I was walking. Where was I? I was several miles away from my house, and I was walking, and there was 2 crows right in front of the street in front of me, and they took off and they left a feather behind, and I was like, okay, I guess this is for me. So I brought the feather back home. That's funny you say that. I have no idea what it means or what I'm supposed to do with it, but it's just.
The crow or the raven are very, very important to us, to Ralph and I.
Oh, God.
They are messengers and have been for,
Yeah.
As we first met in the early 1980s, the ravens were very prompt to us. And while Ralph was living in Las Vegas and I was living in Phoenix, we studied a lot. We studied channeling on the internet, the reconnections. And every time Ralph would get on his computer in Las Vegas, a raven or crow would call to me. He would crow 2 times. And it didn't matter if it was day or night. It just if whenever Ralph's computer came on, it was like telling me he was online now, and maybe we could study.
Nice.
It was never programmed that way, and we talked to a computer literate person, said no, it either had to be programmed that way or it couldn't
have happened, but it did.
Happen.
And this went on for years,
we didn't program it.
for probably 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, 2 or 3 years it was like that. It was our buddy. We knew when they crowed, we were online, we're on target.
So Ramon, I know why that feather was left.
Why?
It was for this conversation right here.
Yeah.
Seems to fit.
Yeah, actually, I would not mention it.
I really feel like the birds are part of our direction. I mean, I feel like many things are, but there's signs that were given in many different ways. To me, like I said, the birds' feathers have been a sign for me. When I first met Ralph, he used the raven. If a raven would pass from the left to the right, he would say we're on the right path. You remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, he probably was playing with me at that point.
I called him Merlin in those days, remember?
Yeah, the ravens were always Merlin to him. So it's just been like a fun thing, but yet it pans out to be either right on.
Yeah, it's not only fun, but it's
right.
It's right.
It's reality.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you find that when you do get on the right path, it is fun.
Yes, it is fun. And that's another thing that we're really needing to have fun in this reality now, where everybody is feeling like everything is so intense and so, important. And we need to laugh at things a little bit more. We need to enjoy the path.
Yeah. Well, that's something Ramona and I get in comments from those you guys out there listening, that our format and the way we do the show, we just, we're not that strict, have a list of questions, boom, boom, we're going to go right down the list and be very rigid with it and real formal. And we're just a couple of guys. I mean, just having conversations. So.
That's great. That's wonderful.
Oh.
Yeah.
All of the people to wake up to who they are.
It's funny with the whole bird story. When was this? This was 1999. I had lost like a really cushy job, and it's funny because I went on vacation to Miami. When I get back, at the time I was living in New York. When I get back to New York, I had spent so much money. So when I get back to New York, I get fired on the first day of work. So of course, now I have no money. And some months went by, and I was scrounging, and my rent was way overdue by 3 months. And I'm sitting there at a table, and next to the table was a window, and this chickadee comes fly. It doesn't fly in because I have my screen down, but he lands on the edge of the window. And I said, I really need some good news. So if you're here, bring me some good news, please. Let me know. And he chirped a few times and then flew away. I went down to the mailbox, and my unemployment check came in, and it was backed up for 3 months. And I was like, yes, I get to pay rent.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's important for us to be aware of the signs that we're given from Creator. Yeah, I think
not only that, but what the bird taught me that day was, what's the point of worrying? Because I was worrying so much. I think that I'm bald now because of those 3 months, because I was worrying so much, and then I realized that day that what was the point of it? Because it didn't help the situation at all.
It hurt the situation, if anything.
Yeah, exactly. So it made me realize that there's no need to worry.
Yeah, worry is really counterproductive. It as many times as we've been shut down, and I didn't get to that part on our car deal, but we've been shut down and told to stop and threatened on the phone, and people driving up in cars and trying to run their cars through the house and stuff, just over and over again. But we found that nature protects her own, and we're natural beings living in a natural environment, and they can't penetrate it. They just don't. They think they can, and they try, and we just say shoot your best shot, but they can't really. They slow us down for a while, and in our present situation, because they found out about Australia and how close we are, they've sent the IRS after us now on a very bogus trip, and they know it's bogus, but they slow us down by, we have to get our CPA on board again, and we have to prove again, and we have to do all this stuff. So we're used to it, but we don't let what they want to happen. They want us to get into fear and get into worry, and we just bless it and say, cool, man, another experience. This is going to be great.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't touch it, And it'll work out that way because we said so, because we're the creator of it. It's so simple, but yet so hard to talk about. when we're not used to it. But and it's working for a lot of people now. It's just like you said, Tom, that a lot of people are now starting to raise their consciousness and look into things a little deeper.
Yep. When you understand that no matter what, in the end, it's all going to be okay. When you know that, they can't touch this.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
The rest of it's all just the journey.
I know. It's so important.
There's nothing that bugs them as much as when you love them. There's nothing they can do. We had an experience before we came up back here to Paradise. We lived in a little town called Willits, California, amongst the heavy duty growers of marijuana. They were all around us. And we went there to build a temple of integrity on a guy's 40 acres. We thought, let's get some shops and workshops going and get people interested in building things and doing things and trying things. But it turned out to be our visit to hell, because everything turned. These guys would come with their quads with AK-47 strapped on the front of them, and they'd come up to the door with a sidearm and a big, not just a bolo, but a machete stuck in their belt, demanding to come in and use the phone, or and this went on for quite some time. And I'll make it short, but it went on for quite some time till it drove us to the edge of our patience, because they were telling us in our home, we had our own little 2-bedroom home there, that they were going to come in and take showers in the middle of the night. They were going to cook in our kitchen and everything else, whether we liked it or not. And so it was getting to the edge of our patience, and we felt we could get really, really, angry and upset about this. But Marcia and I said, okay, cool it, don't go there. Let's go to bed, let's pray, let's talk about it, go to bed, and turn it over to Source and see what the answer is in the morning. In the morning, I woke up, beautiful sunshine and everything. Marcia's out in the kitchen cooking cookies and baking breads and stuff. I said, what's going on? She said, I got the answer, didn't you get it? And I said, you mean turn them into angels instead of demons? She said, that's exactly the answer.
Mm-hmm.
So then we took the cookies over to them and said, hey guys, thought you liked some cookies. Here's some. And these guys were dumbfounded. They didn't know what to do. But it was amazing.
It was totally amazing. They weren't total love beings from that experience, but they sure treated us different.
Yeah.
But
Nice.
the thing is that we accepted them as angels then. And if they pushed our buttons, then we needed to look at what was at the end of the button.
What was going on inside us? Our whole lesson was to turn it around, turn them into angels, and respect them for who and what and where they were and everything, and make plans to get the heck out of there, which we did. But it was cool because the whole thing taught us that if you look at anything as good, it has to be good. If you look at it long enough, it'll turn into good, even if you don't think it's good. And so it
was a full year. It was a total, complete year.
Yeah, no water.
Just living in, and we had to turn it around in order to leave it. I think in order to finish with it.
The death threats were almost daily. They threatened me with a harpoon to run it through me, and they had this guy had a phone over Marcia's head and was going to come down on her head with it and stuff. But we just, we turned it around so easily by just saying, hey, they're just, and Marcia said, we're appealing to the God within them. No matter what they do outside, we're appealing to the God within them. And it worked. It was cool. And I equated that when I took martial arts. I learned a little bit about martial arts, about using any aggressive energy that's coming towards you to turn it around and send it back. So it worked. Yeah.
That story right there. If nobody else gets anything else out of this whole show, that story right there will change your life.
It really did change our lives.
Well, it did, and it put us in heaven wherever we go now.
We did a lot of prayer and a lot of talking to Source, or whatever you want to call, and a lot of soul searching. But we knew we had to know if we're one, if we're all one, then that other one that seems there to be there is still one, and love is not going to kill love, or you're not going to strike out to kill that other part of you. And so when we turn them into these angels, that's basically what we were doing.
And we said thank you for the lessons. We're getting stronger.
And we did.
And we did get stronger, a lot stronger. We'll never go there again.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
There's a question I've never heard anybody ask you, and which is surprising. Being with the vehicle you dealt with, did you ever have any physical contacts from, I guess, our brothers from another solar system?
Oh yeah. Sure. And you guys to me, in my infinite realities that I hold in cells of myself, I'm communicating with them right now with you guys, because they're within all of us. The whole multiverse is on the head of a pin, if you will. We're all one. But and I think what you want to hear is, while we were working on the project, these people would show up just like they were neighbors, although we were at least a mile from the closest houses or buildings. They would show up. A man and a woman showed up one time. Just beautiful people, man. They just, like, you'd feel like you'd known them forever. And they said, hi, we saw your sign and just wanted to say hello and blah, blah, blah. And we started talking with them. And they didn't say anything about our project, but and they were only there for a few minutes. And after they left, and because we all felt kind of strange, we went out and looked and we couldn't find them anywhere. But after they left, we found the projects we were working on were solving themselves. I mean, we went back and said, "Oh, I missed this. There it is, right here." And 3 or 4 of us on different levels of projects were going back to their project and finding, it's simple. There it is there. So they had an influence, without saying anything, on helping us build this workable spaceship, because our human brain really wants to get in the way and stop us. It really wants to stay in the third dimension and watch TV. But
and you had other people too, didn't you?
Oh yeah.
There were 3 people that came to you.
What was that? The experience with Van Tassel down at the Integratron. I worked at Advanced Kinetics, and I had sent to Yugoslavia. At that time, you couldn't get Tesla's big book, and I sent $100 a big book of Tesla's patents. And after I solved the magnetic problems, and did I tell you that at the first of it? I didn't tell him that. Okay.
No.
Okay, I went to work at Advanced Kinetics, is the name of the company, and I was a lab tech, and I worked on a magnetic project, because that's where I fit. And they said, okay, you'll fit here. But all it was firing an electron through a magnetic field without deflection. That's what they wanted me to do. And, get this one electron through the field without it going to the positive or negative side of the magnet. And they gave me a giant oscilloscope and a giant camera, Polaroid. So I fire and take shots. and tell them we're busy. We'll call them back. So they were trying to force this little electron through this field, and I said, no, this is not natural. They're never going to use enough force to get this little guy through the field. So I said, no, I can do this, because I know how nature works. She meanders, she pulses, she breathes, she goes in and out, and she doesn't force in one direction at the same time. So, and it's always in vortexual motion. So I said, I'm going to work on this, and the bench next to me was working on teleportation, on levitation, and they had a steel coil, about a 6-inch coil, and they were managing to levitate a steel ball for about 3 or 4 minutes, and they'd have to go get another one. They'd burn the coil out, and it was just useless, because it was just a waste of time and energy, because I knew I could do better. So I went home, tore apart old stuff I got from garage sales, old television, got the cathode ray tube out, and set up a magnetic field, magnets, and got it all set and ready like I had it at the Institute. But this time, I knew if I pulsed the signal, if I gave it a chance to breathe, to do its own thing instead of me forcing it, it had to go through the field, because it was doing its own thing. So I pulsed the signal, and when I shot, I allowed it to pulse, just breathe, and it went into a spiral instead of a straight line. It went into a spiral and went right through the magnetic field without deflection, and the first shot. And so I did about 20 more of them, and I said, this is it, I got it. And I took pictures and wrote it up and said, oh, I'm going to get a raise for this. And so then I had a little time left, and I said that levitation thing, I had already seen a film on Tibetan, how they move these stones up the side of a cliff using acoustical sounds. They use these giant horns and drums. And I said, oh, cool. Okay, I'll put the speaker on its backside, and I'll try and get things to levitate. And I tried everything until I got to a ping pong ball, and then the ping pong ball, the center, as soon as I put it into the center of the field, it levitated. And it was time to go to bed. I let it sit overnight, and when I woke up, there it was, still levitating, and no sound. It was up about, 28, I don't know what cycles it was, 2,800 cycles or something. Anyhow, it was levitating. So I wrote that up, took pictures of it, took it into Dr. Weinhardt. He was the head of the Institute. I said, here, I won't raise. I didn't say that. And he says, yeah, I see what you're doing here. He says, but here's, and he said, yeah, it's really that simple. But he says, we don't go into that area of physics. This is something you don't understand, Ralph. This is a government-funded research and development laboratory, and we're paid here to look for answers, not find them. And that blew me right out of the water. I thought, well, man, there's no use me being here, because I'm wasting my time, and you guys just want me to keep doing the same thing. He says, go back to work, we'll give you more money in your envelope. But it lasted another week or two, and then I had to quit, and that's when I met Carr. But, it's the simple things that work that they don't want to, like resonance. That was outlawed in some books on physics, to talk about resonance and vibrations and sympathetic anything. They didn't want it mentioned because it's getting too close to the truth and the simplicity. That we have a magnificent mind that could figure these things out if we're not kept busy doing things that we don't really want to do, getting angry and so forth.
What a shame.
Yeah.
You were going to tell him about the integrity.
Oh, the integrity. Oh, I'm sorry. So after that, these 3 guys showed up, and they were dressed in black suits, I swear to God.
At your house.
At my house. And they said they were from the DeWalt School of Electronics and were going to offer me a scholarship or a grant or something. And they just wanted to come in for a few minutes and talk to me. So I invited him in, and I was kind of excited. And I thought, well, in fact, losing my job, maybe this is my next step. So we got engaged in some scientific talk, and all of a sudden I felt uncomfortable because these guys were asking me, about questions that I really didn't want to talk about because it didn't feel comfortable. And one of them was one of the things that was brought up that caused the red flag to go up was I knew the telephone number of the red telephone in the White House. I just picked it out of the air. I said, yeah, that's a blah, blah, blah. And these guys, they really got kind of huffy. And my wife said, I think you better leave. And she actually had to escort them to the door and get them out of the house. And then she says, I don't know what's going on, but you got a family here. Get all this junk, she called it, my tools and my experiments, and your books, and get out of here with it. Go get them. I don't care where you put them. Get them out of here. Because I don't want those guys to come back, though. They might be able to take our house away. Well, I took the book and a lot of the specs and a lot of the little things that I'd done, and I got in the car. I didn't even know where I was going, but all of a sudden, George Van Tassel. And George Van Tassel was in case you didn't know, he was a pilot for Howard Hughes. He flew all of Howard Hughes' aircraft and everything. So he went down to, when he retired, he went down to Giant Rock, California, which is down there, Landers, California, and to a place called Giant Rock, and built an airstrip there. And they were having UFO meetings and all kinds of conferences and everything going on there. But I said, I guess that's where I'm going to take this. I'll take it down there. I want to see it anyway. So I drove down there, and I got out of the car. I was really beat by the time I got there, but he had a little restaurant next to Giant Rock. And as I started walking towards the restaurant, the door opened, the screen door opened, and he walked down the ramp, walking towards me. And I said, and I knew who he was, but I said, George? And he said, yeah, I know. I've been expecting you. You got the book? And yeah, here, this is for you. He says, I know. It was really strange, and it was all done in a matter of seconds. And then he said, I'm really busy right now, but why don't you, before you go back, go over and rest. Go over on that little grass strip over there. He said, go rest for a while before you drive home. I said, okay. So I went over and I laid down, and I laid looking up at the sky, and I swear to you, there was more than hundreds. I would say at least 1,000 of these lights, and they would come right over the top of me, come down low within a few feet, and then go back up and shoot off. There was hundreds and hundreds of them. And I thought, well, how cool. Well, I guess this is what this is all about with these UFOs down here, because I didn't know a whole lot about it. And I thought, well, this must be a natural function down here. We're going to be engaged with spaceships here pretty soon. And then I finally left. And it wasn't until later I was explaining it to somebody, and they said, well, that's simple. They were just saluting you, just saying, hey, that's great, man. You got the book to him, and that's what you're supposed to do. He needed the book to complete his work on the Integratron, which he was building, and you needed to get out of the house. So,
nice.
Story.
Nice.
Wow.
And then there's been other times where I've met people on the street or in the supermarket without any words. You catch them. Usually we avoid eye contact. Most humans do anyway. But for very long. But every once in a while, you catch one and your eyes will lock for maybe just 2 or 3 seconds is all it takes. But then you walk on by and you feel, oh my God, I got downloaded with this information. I'm going to have to sort this out. What is this all about?
Yeah.
So those I equate to, beings coming to us to help from other dimensions.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Wow.
I've experienced that. It's quite a dynamic. universe we live in. Yeah. So, Ralph, we've had you on here almost 2 hours for our second hour now.
Okay.
Time sure does fly. I'm just so grateful and
Yes.
Yeah, so grateful that we've had the opportunity to actually talk to you. This is
Pleasure is all ours. We enjoy, and we're so grateful that you have a network out there of listeners that want to hear this. Whether they believe it or not is not important. They know when they hear certain things, they know how to react to them. So that's what's important. So, and the only part I didn't bring in, we didn't get to fly our spaceships over Chicago or LA like we wanted.
Not yet.
They came, not yet. It's coming, and I think LA is going to be one of our targets.
Well, I'll be. That offer still stands with the dinner. So.
The dinner, okay.
Well, it'll be dinner here, breakfast for you guys. So.
We'll remember.
We'll remember that.
We will.
But they came in and shut us down. They confiscated all the files, all the equipment, all the tools, and the craft that we had. The prototypes.
Tell them who they are.
Well, they had badges of FBI and CIA hanging on their necks, and they had a piece of paper that said you were attempting to overthrow the monetary system in the United States. And this could be held as high treason, and you could be put away for the rest of your life. And so we're going to take all your stuff. And they interrogated us for hours, I don't know, 6 or 8 hours. They were talking to me, and they just told us to never come together, never talk about it, never try to do this again, et cetera, et cetera.
Hmm.
And anyhow, I had to put that in there for the benefit of your listeners wondering, well, what happened? Where's the craft and all that?
Right.
But the craft are here. They're waiting in the wings. In fact, they're all over the place. And
Yep.
Pretty soon, to the level of where the human conception, the third dimensional conception, will be able to see them and utilize them very soon. That's our goal.
Yep.
I sure hope so, because I'm tired of TSA.
That 100th monkey.
Yes.
We're getting close.
Well,
Show.
I have to go teach you the English soon.
Yeah. So, Ralph, what's your website again?
Okay, it's bluestarenterprise.com. That's lowercase, but I think it'll take either, but you get in pretty fast at lowercase, bluestarenterprise.com. And on there are a lot of the lectures that we've given in the past, a lot of videos that we've done, a lot of, not just us, but other people, and other things to see on there related to what we're talking about.
Are you talking anywhere soon?
I'm talking
Any conference?
next week.
Yeah, he's on another
Lotus.
podcast. Next Monday.
There's a magazine called Lotus, and they've just asked me to give a video, but I don't know when. We haven't set a date on it. Probably in a couple of weeks. I've got one coming up on the 15th.
Yes.
It's just it's a podcast, a blog show or whatever they call it, on the 15th. But there will be another video. It's called Lotus Guide, and their website, if you're interested, because they'll probably be announcing it. Where's their website? Info at lotusguide.com.
Oh, that's their email. So it's lotusguide.com.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lotusguide.com.
Okay.
Or www.youtubelotusguide.com.
Oh, I think I've seen some of his stuff on YouTube.
Yeah, they did interview some pretty neat people. One of them being one of our favorite guys is Walsh.
Neil Donald Walsh.
Yeah, they interviewed.
Oh, we've been wanting to get him.
Yeah.
He's what?
He's on my wish list.
Yeah, he's on our wish list for people we want to interview.
Well, we may be seeing him because we've been in. This is the author of, I'm not the author, the editor of Lotus magazine that invited us, and he's kind of close friends with him, and he lives up in Ashland, Oregon, and Marcia and I have been wanting to go up that way, so I imagine if we do, we'll hopefully meet with him, and we'll tell him that maybe if you guys would like him to be on the air, or to.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. That'd be fantastic.
That'd be amazing, because I read all 3 of his books, and they just blew me away.
Yep.
Back in the 90s.
Yep, I definitely resonated with his material, so.
Yeah.
So yeah, we will definitely be keeping in contact, Ralph, without a doubt. Just absolutely love you guys. So your energy is awesome.
Thank you so much. Both of you.
And
will this be on your website so that we can archive?
It certainly will. As soon as we get it all presentable for the public, we will. It airs next Sunday on BBS, and the second 2 hours here will be in our archives, and I will send you links and et cetera, et cetera. So yeah. I want to thank everybody for hanging around for long enough to listen to all of this. This was. I'm sure if you listened all the way through here, you got as much out of it as we did. So I want to make sure you guys know that Ramon and I absolutely love you.
Yeah, thank you.
So,
and special thanks to Mark for helping put this together.
Yes, thanks a lot, Mark. We do appreciate it. And also, guys, coming up at the beginning of October, we are going to start asking for people to become members and subscribe to for the second hour content. So hit that membership button and become a member of the 100th Monkey.
Oh, that would be great. And you guys are more than welcome to put a link on our website. We have a few there now, but we have above top secret, and I think there's a couple more. But we'd love to have you on there so that people can contact you.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great. We'll definitely, I guess I'll get a hold of Mark and make sure that happens.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, we'll send him over our banner.
Great. Okay, well, condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance, and we will talk to you guys next week.
Night.